Hello everyone. Today we're going to walk through the process of moving a resident in docs management. So obviously the first thing we need to make sure is that you have received your email from compliance telling you that this applicant has been approved and they're ready to move in. The best way to double check that after you get the email is to look at your certifications tab. And what you want to see down here under the certification is status approved. If it's showing trial, you need to contact compliance because it hasn't been approved yet. So you should receive an email and the certification should show approved. So once that's all ready, we're ready to start the move-in process. We want to double check a few things first. Like I said, we first want to check and make sure that we've got the approved certification with the correct effective date, which will be the move-in date. On this one, we're showing 5/11/2018. We also want to go up and look at the ledger, make sure everything looks correct there. So on this one, we have a $10 application fee that's been paid, and we should also show a deposit that's been paid. So on this applicant, we have a $200 deposit, and it's showing as paid. The other thing is you want to check your miscellaneous tab. Just make sure that everything's entered correctly here. There's a spot for vehicles and a spot for pets. We're showing one vehicle listed for this applicant and no pets. If we forgot to add something at this point, we could go ahead and hit the new button and add that information right there. You do want to take care of that before you start generating your paperwork for the move-in. All right, once all that information looks correct, what we're going to do is actually go into our move-in tab under the actions column. So I'm going to click move-in. Once the move-in box opens, you're going to notice at the very top there is a section called required tasks. And these have to be completed before you can finish the move-in. So we show the certification's been approved. You will also show screening as a required task. I don't have screening set that way for my training video, but you will show that on your required task, so you'll need to make sure that's been done, obviously. And you also have some additional tasks that we can talk about a little bit later. But what we want to do now is find our move-in packet. So we've already completed the application approval packet. We can show down here that this application packet has been closed. It's approved. So now we're ready to deal with the move-in packet itself. You will notice that there's different packets for different states. So this property for training purposes is in Oklahoma. So we see the WP move-in packet Oklahoma for Smothers, which is the last name of our applicant. So I'm going to click on this packet. Once this opens up, I'm going to see a lot of different forms. And these are all forms that I may or may not use in my move-in packet specific to my property. So that we've got the lease, we've got several different addendums, such as the bedbug addendum, mold information and prevention addendum, just the standard forms that you would have in your lease packet. So what we're going to do at this point is generate these forms. So I'm going to select the tab that says Generate Forms. And then I just want to go through and make sure all the forms that I need for this move-in have a check mark next to the specific form. If it doesn't, I need to add that in. So I've got a few VAWA forms that I want to make sure I've got listed here. If I was using the satellite dish addendum, I would use that one. If I had fire stops, I would also make sure that was correct. So you just want to look through, especially the first few times you're doing this, making sure you have all the correct forms. And then what I will do is simply hit this button that says Generate. And it's going to take a minute or so before it finishes these out. One thing that does not happen on my training site that will happen when you open up yours is that you will get another box that opens up, just some merged information that you'll need to enter in for this applicant. Typically this is going to have information about pet fees if applicable. There might be a few other things, but you'll need to fill in all those merged fields before you generate the forms. All right, now that I've done that, I come over here, and it comes back to my basic packet box, and I see over here I've got a bunch of different forms attached now. And then in the final category, it has a red X, which means that these have not been finalized, which we're going to do that here in just a second. And it also shows us some notes. Data received from Blue Moon, form has been generated. So all these forms should be showing up now. And we've got a few different pages here that we want to go through and take a look at. And then we've got a couple that do not have anything yet. These are going to be the placeholders for our final documents after everything's been signed. So we'll talk about that once we finish up. So let's go back. Now that we see all that our forms are generated, we basically need to print these off to get ready for signature. So we've got this applicant scheduled to move in on 5/11. So I typically would not print all this stuff off until maybe the day before or the morning of, in case there's any changes. So the next step is we're going to go up here to print and view packet. Now we get a toggle box, and the toggle box just basically allows us to change the order of the document. So we can actually put them in order the way that we need to have them for our file checklist just by pressing these arrows, and it's going to move things around in the order that we need them to be. So you'll just put those in the correct order, and then we want to hit print and view. The nice thing is this is going to be very similar to what you were used to with Blue Moon. It's going to autofill all of our documents, and this will be all of the other forms that are not in Blue Moon as well. But you do want to go through and just take a look, make sure that everything looks correct, especially, like I said, the first couple times that you're doing this, and let compliance know if something's not autofilling for you. We just want to take a look at that. Once we know everything is correct, we would want to go and print this document, because this is what we're going to get ready to sign with the applicant for move-in. So we'll pretend that I printed all that stuff off. Close that out. All right, now I would sit down with the applicant. Oh, I'm missing one thing. You also want to make sure, I'll come back to this in just a second. The most important form, obviously, for tax credit is the tick. So we do want to not only make sure this is approved, but we need to print this off as well. So you would also come over, go to your tick tab under certifications, wait for it to generate. And then we would print that off as well. So you're going to need that form along with all the forms from our packet. So I'm going to go back into my Docs tab, go to my packets, and I'm going to go back into move-in packet for Oklahoma. All right, now what I want to do, since I printed these off, I've made sure everything's correct, is I need to finalize all of these documents. So I can check this box here, which will mark everything except for the last two under sign certification and sign lease paperwork, which we'll talk about at the very end. And then we can go up into our actions column and make selected final. Once we do that, we'll see the little green arrow that tells us that everything has been finalized. Okay, so now everything's been signed. The residents come in, you've signed it, resident has signed it. Now what we need to do is actually go in and upload the finalized documents into OneSite. If we do this, not only do we have this all right on our computer within OneSite, but compliance is able to go in and do a final audit of your file. So what you're going to want to do is come over to the last page here where we see these two placeholders, sign lease paperwork and sign certification. And very similar to what we did in the application process, we're going to print off a couple of barcodes. So we'll go up here to print barcodes. And I want to uncheck all of these, because really all I need are those two. So we're looking for sign lease paperwork, sign certification, and then I'm going to print these. And if you remember from the application process, the nice thing about these barcodes, it tells us exactly what needs to go behind each cover sheet. This first one is the sign lease paperwork for Smothers. Shows us the move-in date, the unit number. And then we have the sign certification, which will include the tax credit paperwork, such as the TIC and the under 5,000 asset waiver. So I would print those off, and then I'll take all of my paperwork that's been signed and put it behind the correct cover sheet. Then we will have the option to scan it and attach it directly to these placeholders. We have a couple of different options. In the application process, excuse me, I showed you the scan function, and today we're going to actually just go in and attach. So in the description, I'm going to type in Smothers for the name, and we'll put in move-in. And then I just need to find the document. So I've printed all the stuff off. I put it in the proper order. I put my cover sheets on it. I've scanned it somewhere on my computer. So then I would just go in and find that documentation. And right here I have Smothers signed. And then I would hit attach. Now once I go back into my move-in packet, it might take a minute to open up. I want to go back to that last page, and now I see that this information has been uploaded based on the barcode value. So we could actually just look at that and make sure everything looks correct. So this first one is the signed lease paperwork. We can see we've got the correct cover sheet, and then you would have all the other documents that go along with that. I don't have that all in here on the training video, but I would have all my lease paperwork and all the addendums. Close that out. Then I need to go in and finalize these two items. So I'm going to check the boxes here, and again, go up to Actions, make the selected final. Now I should have green check marks on every document listed in my move-in packet. So at this point, I'm actually ready to go ahead and move him in. So I'm going to go back into my move-in tab under Actions. All my required tasks are correct. So I'm going to select the move-in button. What do you want to do? I want to move him in. And this process is going to be very similar to what you did before. A couple of things I want to point out is there are times when you will have errors under your message box, and you simply just need to override those. So I'm going to put in NA. If I don't do this, it won't let me move on. And then I need to put in the dates that the resident and the owner or the manager actually signed the tick, which for move-in should be the exact day that they move in. So I'm going to put in 5/11. Once that's done, I'll hit complete. I should close out of here. There we go. So now we've moved this applicant in, and we've got all of their docs listed under their packets here. And that's pretty much the process for moving in an applicant using docs management. Thank you.